Okay, we're live. Just waiting for some people to show up. The animals are misbehaving. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Carl. Welcome to week number 9 in our Sunday Passing the Time During the Pandemic poetry series. Today I'm going to read my book, Drugs. Drugs is a series of prose poem essays, or I guess when they're performed live you could call them lectures. I wrote it in 1996, and it was first published in 1999 by Paper Brain Press. So shout out to my buddy Bill Marsh, who did that. This is the way it looked originally. Shortly afterwards, he reformatted it and republished it, so it's a little bit shorter and wider. And then finally in 2006, it was gathered up into tracheal centrifuge, and so it was collected in there along with the other material that's been in there that we've talked about in the weeks past. I'll talk more about the inspiration for the book after I read it, but I do want to issue a disclaimer up front. I do not condone drug use per se. Of course, it's also fair to say that this book does not condemn it. But if you're considering drug use, I recommend that you consult with a licensed healthcare practitioner beforehand. And so we'll go ahead and read Drugs. It's dedicated to Jeff Conant, which I will elucidate a little bit more afterwards. And there's a preface. These essays can safely and cheaply perform the labor of 8 state attorney generals. Grind them into powder and wear them in a pouch near your heart for good luck. Just 2 of these essays every 4 hours brings relief from mild swelling, heartburn, and existential angst. If symptoms persist, see your guru or superiors. Use only as connected. These essays are a make-believe know-it-all for our times, and don't we need another? Not intended for impersonal consumption. Alcohol. Alcohol is really the caffeine of the oppressed. Alcohol can turn any morning into a wake. With all this alcohol around, who needs friends? Self-awareness? Clothes? If alcohol were solid, all the world would be vegetarian and no bones about it. As it is, though, we dream of the alcohol which pours from our speakers like music. Alcohol was the subject of the earliest writing, but when no one could read the words the next day, language was left to accountants. Alcohol, just do it. The sleep of reason produces minute traces of alcohol. Give me an A. Give me an L. Give me your car keys. Thanks, Mean Joe. Be sure to request alcohol at your next tax audit. Caffeine. This bean will keep you awake when all you want to do is type letters for the boss. Caffeine doesn't grow on trees, you know. It's the real tear residue of the psychic sea tortoise. If caffeine ever ran for office, it would promise to bring government back to the people and not to bow to the special interests. It would campaign non-stop. Caffeine's formidable organizational skills make it an asset in any relationship. Give caffeine an inch and it'll take a migraine. Give it a ghost of a chance and it'll take your nerves for a ride while you sleep trustingly in the back seat. Don't ever let caffeine catch you up without your mug. The earth itself was gray as death before they stained it with the blood of the coffee bean. Oh, the shameless polish of the caffeine poets. All our most hallowed rituals revolve around placating caffeine deities, lest in their jitters they annihilate the careful crops. Cocaine. She don't lie, she don't lie, she don't lie. She misremembers. Cocaine is the poor man's crack. This is not your father's cocaine essay. Cocaine breaks your banks, strikes it rich, gets excited and can't resist. Yippee, it shouts. Viva las mucus. But reason prevails and cocaine returns to agency budget column A. If rationing is in effect in your province, just remember, Wednesday's cocaine day. He who has eyes to see, let him see cocaine. She who has ears to hear, let her hear cocaine. The devil may care, but cocaine's got better things to worry about than every sod's unlucky septum. Had Coke been known to Antony and Cleopatra, we might all be speaking hieroglyph today. Crack. Crack comes for the low prices, but stays for the high yield. Crack yields a high commensurate with the light fixtures and smoke alarms, making it the always already of the post-structuralist arboretum. Crack's quick wit and low boiling point make it the ideal spokesdrug for its generation of media-savvy youth Quakers. Wakes you up like a cold slap in the face. If you wake up with cosmic egg on your face, it's just like crack to have a hand in your pillow someplace, a sort of contrary tooth fairy. How does crack stack up against a well-turned Macarena? By dropping you like a baker's ton of bricks. Fame never went to crack's head like some other drugs we could mention. Ecstasy. Contrary to official pronouncements, ecstasy is not synthesized. It is, in fact, organically generated on the tongues of youth dancing to synthesized sounds. This misalignment is itself a product of political or degenerate ecstasy. Ecstasy before dishonor was even once the rallying cry of the erstwhile open secret party, before the gold standard made them all into populists. The popular imagination has an ecstasy to fit any occasion. Close cover before striking. Ecstasy hasn't got all day, you know. If ecstasy were a broken record, it would be Sufi meditation trances, and you'd never know without me telling you this. With its spacious interior design and high vacancy rate, ecstasy is the perfect habitat for the student or young professional. Heroin. When life gives heroin lemons, it makes lemon poppy seed cake. Every heroin trip is a substitute sluice ride, and every junkie's like a setting sun. W.C. Fields said that. If heroin were water, there'd be no place left for it to take you. I said that. Would it be nobler in the mind to take up arms against a sea of oppression, or heroin at the apex of evening? The heroine of this essay follows narrative decorum to the bubbly precision of a climax. Those who've fallen through the crest of a wave and found an oil slick on another side are pretty much heroin people. Got me? Heroin leaps us through sincerity loops as squarely as the flight paths of insects stuck indoors. Elevate me though you may to the status of thing, heroin's there, standing on tiptoes, looking for clues, aiming for that struck-it-rich vein. LSD. Better known as the fifth beetle, the primordial alphabet soup of the soul still makes music of the spheres today, smuggled to heaven in a Harvard professor. With LSD safely incognito, time is free to become holographic, past and future dancing the uncanny now. My love, don't give me presents. Some people think LSD is the television of the future. I think it's the upside-down topographical map of the edge of everything. It's not every drug off the street that has a kind of rock, a kind of jazz, a kind of rain, and a kind of test named after it. Acid's casual ties with normalcy make it the devil's own catalytic converter. LSD makes thing happen. Marijuana. Hi. Marijuana's not a drug, but it plays one on TV, radio, at your local legislature, and in the state attorney general's office. These are old. If marijuana were a discourse, the Academy would scorn it in derision, then attempt to co-opt its most damning critiques. Marijuana is the poor man's marijuana. While you're busy being good, marijuana and its elves are ceaselessly building toys at the North Pole of the cortex. Scientifically speaking, this means heaps of fun. If marijuana weren't a discourse exactly, but rather an airport, you'd be waiting and waiting for your plane to arrive so it could depart again with you on it, until you got so hungry you'd eat the first snack to hit your fold-out tray. It's marijuana's job to draw fouls for the other drugs, a sort of pharmaceutical lightning rod. Methamphetamines. Methamphetamine takes too long to say, unless you're on one. Methamphetamines form a gang called Speed. Speed leaps from dendrite to dendrite, scrolling through your archives before you can say Jack Robinson. Jackie Robinson took Speed back onto the base paths where it belongs. Things go better with Speed, but better take an extra kidney for those long-distance trips. At long last, the liver changes Speed back into that masterpiece of pop art it once was, before fast food and fast living, etc., etc. Bill me later, I gotta go. A quick fashion check is to ask yourself, would Speed let me leave the house dressed like this? When Speed is on the scene, everyone has twice as many miles to go before they sleep. Morphine. Morphine is opium's big sister. It's been a long time since they've double dated, but not for lack of moon-eyed men. Beethoven's late quartets are large. They contain multitudes of buried references to morphine, his immortal beloved. For more information, visit my Morphine homepage. How long, O morphine, how long? Along the lines of Botticelli's Morpheus, this is an Enlightenment nudie on the half-shell. Known the world over for its generosity and heroism during wartime, morphine wants only to be remembered as a regular drug, a dedicated family drug, a hard-working, trustworthy drug. Dig the morphine, man. Just dig it now. Morphine, coming soon to a brain casing near you. Nicotine. Nicotine, huh? Expect a rant. Feel punk, Lucky? Nicotine busies itself turning your lungs into a suitable set for a documentary film. Now that's the ticket. Nicotine patches you through to cool school if you just hold it right there. Nicotine has easily twice the charm of a fever blister. Easily. And only half the calories, making nicotine the perfect salve for your nervous love. Likely as not, the telemarketer on the other end of the phone's a nicotine aficionado. It's a bumpy world. Why not smooth the passage with a few accepting puffs? On the other hand, no other world even has nicotine. Let's have a big second hand for nicotine. We should all be available one day to evaporate like nicotine in the windy lungs of this life. Oxygen. Oxygen may just be the most addictive substance known to mankind. Once it has a hold of you, it will never leave you be, ever, until it hears grim death rattling in your throat. Think about that. If the prospect of growing old just still jonesing for a breath, any breath, is too much for you, just try to kick the oxygen habit. Oxygen laughs at your futility in holding your breath till you turn blue and pass out. You'll be back. Oxygen's just providing a service. If it didn't, some other molecule surely would. At night, oxygen carves up the empire of your soul with the other members of its cartel. Water, food, and shelter. Peyote. Compare and contrast. Peyote and coyote. Many a coy psychonaut's paid his way through grad school like so. Peyote. Had Homer only known the presses of the peyote root, the Odyssey would have turned into an astrological 12-step program for retired militiamen. I mean, even more of one than it already is. Peyote'd make the perfect present for your buttoned-down mind. Collar some today, or look out for more moods of ring around your outlook. Peyote makes the bridge to the overman look like the bridge to your bridge club, eternally re-trumping your 7-no lead like it was something that must be overcome. Thus spake Peyote. Psilocybin mushrooms. Psilocybin mushrooms grow in cowshed out in fields, where mycological reduction meets historical Dasein. The mere mention of mushrooms turns neighbors into preservation societies. Caligula wore mushroom earrings as a charm against senility. It might have worked. The mushroom's greatest gimmick is to rhyme itself with its oppressors until they see things eye to eye, tete-a-tete, mano a mano. You get the picture. My mushroom is an honor student at TM Elementary. Famous mushrooms include Albert Einstein, Virginia Woolf, and you, if you don't mind being shit on for a start. Mushrooms are food for thought in any country where it's hard to trade thought for food. And finally, television. Television is the black sheep of the drug family. It's the local drug made good, the domestic Tinseltown of the medicine cabinet. Hook up your synapses and see. Scully! On TV, the pacification program cross-dresses as entertainment. Some people think television is the LSD of the future. I think it's the genius generator of the post-present. TV sinks the 8-ball of the psyche with its suave stroke and leaves us wondering only which corner pocket it meant. Television sets itself up on a pedestal of self-completion. That's auto-entelechy for you other eggheads. It's the library paste that holds the social fabric together, and that children get all over themselves and eat, and it makes them sick. Television doesn't want to have to get physical, but don't press your luck on that remote, Jackson. You brought that on yourself, via satellite, before a live studio audience. That's the end of the text. So I promised a little more, thank you. I promised a little more blathering after the poetry proper was done. So drugs was the result of two different sets of circumstances that came together. The first was that around 1994, my friend, the poet and activist Jeff Conant, started reading these poems he was writing, which he called the alphabet poems. This was a set of poems that were arranged like a primer for students. So we had A for amnesia, B for bureaucracy, C for cows, and so forth and so on. And these were eventually published by O Press under the title The Secret Ingredient of Every Day, which you can find. If you can find, I highly recommend you pick up. I love these poems. They're super funny, and they're full of beauty and surprise, and they're very funny, and they're great. But the thing that struck me most about the alphabet poems was the tone. It had this quasi-academic, confident in its own authority, even slightly pompous, but saying a lot of slightly absurd, silly, or poetic things. And that tone of voice resonated with me because that was a voice that I would do, goofing off with my friends, inspired by John Cleese or Graham Chapman characters in Monty Python sketches. But Jeff made me realize that you could write poetically for that voice. The prose essay format really made it work. And that was kind of hit the light bulb in my head. And I'd actually like to read you one of Jeff's poems so you can hear the similarities and the differences, the resonances between what he did and what I ended up doing in drugs. So here's D for Dinosaurs by Jeff Conant. After the motorcycle goes by. Dinosaurs don't remember when we ruled the earth for 60 billion years. Black holes well up where dinosaurs' footprints were, and now museums and oil rigs live there, paid for by the children they would eat. Did dinosaurs live in California until the tourists came to fill the roaring cinemas the size of 20-story buildings? Their eggs are diamonds now. If dinosaurs drove cars, they'd grind up human bones for gasoline and pump it in their tanks. The thunder lizards billow up in flames from pipelines in Alaska where they froze. In Ecuador, the Indians roast oil men with garlic to make them go away. Leave well enough alone. In Nigeria, the river is gummy with prehistoric violence thicker than blood. In Iraq, the desert burns because modern warfare is built on skeletons of stegosaurs, those pea-brained herbivores who never harmed a soul. Even credit cards are dinosaurs in drag disguise, come back to walk the earth. Their flat plastic forms a mockery of the monsters they once were. Now they're just below rubber stamps on the chain of killing for killing's sake. Dream back the dinosaur, buy back the bison. Let's give dinosaurs the credit they deserve. So you can kind of hear the similarities and the differences. So the second thing that led to the composition of drugs was I was thinking about the fact that drugs affect different people differently. Everybody's body chemistry is unique, and so the interaction of the drug with the individual chemistry of each person has a unique set of effects, some good and some bad. So that's down to chemistry. We also use the word chemistry to describe personality interactions between people, as in, there was no chemistry between those two actors in that movie. I didn't buy that they were a married couple. Or, how did your blind date go? The chemistry between us wasn't good. So I thought it would be fun to treat the various drugs as if they were people and had personalities that could be profiled. And it occurred to me that the mock academic tone of voice and the poetic prose lecture essay format would be the perfect vehicle for that. So from that point, everything fell into place and I was off and writing. And as I went, I decided to expand the definition of a drug somewhat for comic effect and or socio-political commentary. So that's how stuff like television and oxygen found their way in. Now, I should point out that I didn't form close personal relationships with all the drugs that I wrote about in this book. Some of them I was familiar with. Others were passing acquaintances, or I had mutual friends that I had watched them interact with. And still others I assembled profiles on based on media reports and general reputation. So don't judge. So that's how drugs came to be. And there are a couple questions this week. The first one is curious why you didn't include alcohol. It actually came early, so when we're done, you can rewind back to the beginning and catch that one. And then this week's question from my cousin Dan. The politics of the day has often been integral to your work. Has the current political environment provided the inspiration for any recent writing? Yes, it has. Actually, before I get into that, the interesting thing is that the political environment in the times that I was writing these things that I'm reading today are still resonant today for some of these things. I was just reading something today where I was thinking like, yeah, that's still an issue. I can't remember what it was, but there was something. But yes, I have been writing to kind of help vent in quarantine and with the situation that's going on now. So one of these weeks coming up soon, probably, hopefully, I am going to read a work in progress based on the stuff that I've been writing since this started, since probably February. So yes, the current political environment has definitely provided the inspiration, if you want to call it that, for some recent writing. So, and hey, we're under 30 minutes. So I'm going to stop for today, and we'll pick up again next Sunday. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and thank you for your questions. And yeah, we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you.